Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. This is the show where we discuss how to find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a deal. And this week, we're going to have a conversation about finding contractors to work on your deals. Managing contractors is a big process. A lot of people really struggle with that. It's one of the most moving parts of any fix and flip deal. So we're going to go over some strategies and tips on the show. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great one. Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. I am your host and the Foreclosure Deals Coach, Donny Coram, and this is the show where normal investors, people just like you, learn how to find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a foreclosure deal to make a profit. We're targeting $25,000 per deal right now. One of the biggest struggles that people face when they're trying to do a deal, and remember, this is a 5-part strategy, right? So the first part of the strategy is finding a deal. And a lot of people don't know where to find a deal. And be honest with you, finding deals is a full-time job in and of itself. We've got a full-time acquisitions team who's just out there looking for deals, bouncing those deals off of me. I work to find deals for the clients as well. So it's a lot of work to find great deals in the marketplace. The misconception is that there's not a lot of deals. Well, the reality is there are always deals. It's just the amount of work it takes to find deals varies based on supply and demand factors, interest rates, etc. So today, I would say it's about middle of the road. It's kind of, the inventory is high, so there's a lot of options to pick from, but it's difficult to locate deals right now. The second round is analyzing the deal. We call it the figure stage. And in the figure stage, we are basically determining if the deal is a great deal. Well, there are a lot of things that go into making up a great deal. What I have attempted to do is dumb it down to 3 very basic numbers. You have to locate your acquisition price, what you're paying for it, pretty obvious. Your rehab price, which is less obvious. You have to do some math to really figure out how much you're going to put into the property. We use a price per square foot multiplier to really determine what we believe we're going to put into the property. And then we have to put that into the spreadsheet. So you've got that second number. Finally, you got to determine what the property is going to sell for, your sales price or after repaired value. If you determine that your purchase price, your rehab cost totals, and then you subtract that from the sales price, right? Then you take that number and generally you split that in half to get your profit. Quick numbers on that is if you're buying a house for $300,000, you're spending $50,000 on remodeling it, you're into it for $350,000. You sell it for $400,000. You subtract the $350 you're into it from the $400,000 to leave $50,000 in gross profit. You split that to cover the cost of funds, your real estate agent commissions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then you should be left with a $25,000 profit. That's the general target. What we're looking for in doing deals for the clients, looking for a consistent $25K profit on properties. The goal is not to knock it out of the park like you see in these flipping shows. It's great when you can make 80, 100 grand on a flip, and I have. It's an amazing experience, but it's inconsistent. And inconsistency leads to more expenses in other areas, okay? So it's important to analyze your deals to get a consistent result. The third phase is funding deals. You have to be able to provide capital to get the deals done. My clients need to come to me with a minimum capital base of about $50,000. That's based on a 15% down payment on an average acquisition price of about $300,000 here in the Springs market. In Pueblo, we're buying for a little bit cheaper. I'm under contract to buy one right now for $160,000. So 15% of that's a little bit less, obviously closer to $25,000. But to make sure we can buy deals in both of our target markets, I like my clients to have $50,000 in liquidity. I have a hard money processor. I'm a hard money broker myself. So once we determine that we have a property that works, we move that to the processing team, and then you get the deal funded and you're good to go, right? Finally, we want to get the property fixed. And this is where it gets a little complicated. There are a ton of moving parts in the remodel world, right? You've got to determine what you're going to spend on the property. You've heard the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Well, this has been the biggest problem for me and my clients for years. We were doing our first flips. Remember, I've done 400 flips here in the local market. Best years were 40 flips in 2020, 47 flips in 21, and 45 flips in 22. And we were on track to do 60 that year. But as you all know, the interest rates went crazy and halfway through 22, and it really slowed our progress and almost slowed us to a complete crawl. So we lost a lot of our construction resources during that time, because the reason we were getting the pricing we were getting for construction was that we were able to offer consistency to our general contractors who were doing the work. Once you take that consistency out of the equation, these guys have to look for more consistent work, and because they have gaps in their work, general contractors have to charge more what they charge to a retail consumer than what they charge to an investor. The margin numbers on the fixed side are, generally speaking, a GC is going to mark up the parts and labor by 30 to 35%. That's pretty much industry average for what a GC charges to a retail consumer. Well, when you're talking about a $50,000 remodel, just the pure cost of it, adding 30% to that makes it cost prohibitive at best, right? You're now adding another $15,000 just in kind of general contractor profit. And I don't want to say profit, because I am a general contractor and we have expenses. Okay. So you've got your insurance, you've got your, storage facilities, you've got your equipment you have to purchase. So it's 35% markup, but it's not necessarily all profit, is it? Right. So I'm not saying that GCs are not worth what they charge. It's just, it's very expensive to run a construction company. That's the reality of it. Right. So with remodeling, however, when you're working with investors, we generally try to get the margin on our GCs down to 10 to 15%. That means that on that same 50K remodel, we're paying out $55,000 when you count the management fees and et cetera. It makes it far more lucrative. The problem is, and GCs are happy to take that lower rate because we offer them consistency. Instead of bouncing between job to job, right, like they're generally doing, now they've got one client sending them consistent business. That consistency translates, and they can pay their guys more consistently. They have a consistent stream of profit coming in, and they can offer better rates. But it only works with consistency. And this is where most investors go wrong. If you're only doing one deal every 3 to 6 months, right, it's very difficult to keep a GC busy all the time. So this system works much better at scale. This is where the Foreclosure Deals Coach system really helps out, because we offer scale. There are 41 clients in the system right now. So if all of us are buying 3 to 4 deals per year, we now can offer 120 to 160 remodels to the GCs that we're working with, allowing us to consistently get the better pricing rating that we would get as working as a group. Okay. But this is where the challenge is right now. And really the breadth of the show today is that there's a shortage of contractors here in the marketplace. A lot of construction workers have either gotten out of the industry because there haven't been enough money in it in recent years when things slowed down, or we're not recruiting as many young people into construction right now. People are growing up. You don't have as many people, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman, a doctor, a jet pilot. How many kids are out there saying, hey, I want to go into construction? Not a ton, right? It's a tough job. It's hard on your body. You have to work in the elements a lot. You're either cold, in the winter time when you're working outdoors, or you're way too warm in the summer when you're working outside. You got to deal with that. So there's less demand right now, less available resources right now. Kids are not going into construction at the rate that they used to go into construction, and there's a massive shortage. Colorado is working through that shortage. I've seen a couple of programs that are being proposed to start training people to get into the field and et cetera, to offset that. But this is one of those things where after you realize it's a problem, you're already a little bit late in the game. So Colorado is definitely suffering from a construction shortage of people. So at this point, finding the right trades is a difficulty for people to do that. There's a Denver nonprofit that's setting up right now. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see this, but that's working to train the next round of construction workers, so we can maybe again fix this problem. They're bridging the gap, as they like to say it. But a bunch of people are not trying to get in the field right now, so we're struggling to find that. What does a investor do during this time when you buy a property with me as your coach? I'm helping you with the first 3 F's. I'm helping you to find the property. We locate the properties for you. Okay, we are analyzing the property, doing the figuring, heavy analysis, making sure you're getting the right things, and then we are funding the property. But after that, we're providing you with 5 deliverables, okay? And those 5 deliverables are, we're going to get you your scope of work. We're going to get you a labor estimate, a parts estimate. Okay, we do an inspection on the property to make sure there's going to be no major surprises as we're working through it. And we're doing a 3D rendering of the property. On every property that I send to my clients, I'm providing those 5 deliverables so you're ready to go. But from there, with all the clients that I have, it's physically impossible for me to manage all the properties that I'm working on. As you can see here, with a shortage in labor, it's even harder now to locate those people. So we've got a couple of GCs that we're working with, but as the group grows, there's a lot more responsibility on the clients who are buying the properties to locate trade resources. Again, programs like this one are bringing in the youth in the construction, and hopefully we're going to see this problem fix itself over time. But this is really the issue that we're dealing with today, is locating proper construction resources. So where do we find them today? Well, I can tell you from years of doing this that what you're looking for, like in anything, is experience. We're not looking for the cheapest guy. It's very easy to go on Facebook and find a guy, just a handyman type who's like, yeah, I can fix that house up, right? And then you hire him on there, and he's 3 to 4 weeks past due. He's not getting stuff done. He's physically exhausted, right? It's not his fault. Flipping an entire house on your own is very difficult. So what happens is it takes longer, it costs more, and although you may be paying a lower hourly rate to this individual, what you're getting is a lower net result. The property's not going to look as good. It's going to take longer to get done, which is going to cost you more in interest costs to get the property to the finish line, right? And ultimately that higher interest cost is going to translate into making less money on the deal. You're far better off finding an experienced general contractor who can do the work for you, and maybe charges a little bit more per hour because you're getting a higher level of skill, but you're making that money back in the less hassle and less process that you have to manage. So the goal is to find experienced general contractors who are not available. And I know that seems kind of crazy, but if a general contractor is just ready to go, right? If they can just take your job right now, this is a sign that they're not in high demand. And if they're not in high demand, that means you might not want them either, right? So that's a tough thing. You're trying to locate somebody who's in high demand, and so maybe can't start a project for you right away, but can start one down the road. So what do we do to facilitate that? Well, 2 things. Number 1, general contractors speak an entire language on their own. Okay, so with that in mind, we work with project managers who manage the general contractors on your behalf. So we've got a project management team, 2 guys in the team right now, Scott and Steven. And Scott and Steven are project managers, and they're locating their own trades. You pay a flat fee to the general contractor, which we're factoring that into the total remodel budget. So it's not an out-of-pocket cost by any means, but when we're budgeting for the remodel, we're factoring in not only the cost of the remodel, but the management fees that go with that. Okay, so you have to have a good PM because they're always working relationship with other GCs, and as a result of that model, they have GCs they can deploy to different projects. This is far better than trying to figure this out on your own. So either you're going to be the project manager locating the trades on your own, or you're going to hire a project manager. Most of my clients have day jobs. They have other things that they're doing, so they can't necessarily manage the project day to day by themselves because they've got a job. They certainly don't have the time to go find a property on their own because they've got employment, right? Analyzing the property is best reserved for experts who understand the market very well, so they don't have time to do that. And finally, getting it funded, going to the lenders and all that stuff is all a process. The foreclosure program, the foreclosure profit system, takes all of that out of the hands of the buyer, you as the client, and it finds the property, analyzes the property, gets the property funded, and then tasks you as the owner with doing the project management and getting the property to the finish line. A lot of people don't have time for that nor the skill set, so they employ a project manager to do that. The second thing that we do is we're always looking for new general contractor talent. And I want to bring up LinkedIn because this is where I find a lot of my contacts. Somebody who just gets a GC license, believe it or not, I got the GC license. It's an open book test, okay? So it's not that complicated to get. And that's why there's a lot of people who don't know what they're doing with general contractor licenses. What you can do, though, is you can go on LinkedIn. You're looking for people. Okay. And then you want to find a GC in your desired location. We're in Colorado Springs, Colorado, right? And then you go ahead and show the results, and you get a list of people who are general contractors in the area. Now you've got to reach out to them. You got to connect with them. Best way to connect with them is hit this connect button and send a message. But I can tell you that I've probably sent, I don't know, 30 or 40 general contractor, hey, we'd like to talk to you about potentially bringing you on board. If you're interested in doing remodeling work for investors, you really have to make sure you're using that verbiage, okay? Because some guys are retail only. They're used to the 30 to 35% markup. They're booked 4 to 5 months out right now with that 30 to 35% markup. They've got no reason to talk to you about a 10 to 15% markup if they're already getting double that or even triple that in certain cases than the 10% we can offer. So you just don't want those guys. So you need to get them isolated in a couple of ways. One, are you available? And you don't want them to be too available. The answer should be no, not exactly. I got a couple projects I'm finishing up right now, but I could be available in a couple of weeks or a month or so. You don't want them to be ready to go right now because it's a sign they're not in high demand. Okay. And also you want to know that they're experienced. So we're asking, how long have you been doing this? How long have you had your general contractor's license? You also often want to know what type of license that they have. Okay. The C license is what I have. It's the entry level. It's all about residential. And it's basically everything you need to build a single residential structure. And it is sufficient for what we are doing with fix and flips. Okay. But if the guy's got a class A license, that means he can also build commercial stuff. We're not asking them to build commercial stuff, but it does show that they took a little bit more time to get a little bit more educated and worked harder to get a higher grade license. So you're asking, what class is your contractor license? A, B, or C. C again is residential. B is like multifamily residential. So you're getting into like apartment complexes, duplexes, triplexes, that kind of thing. And then A is commercial. So you don't necessarily need them to have the B or A license. They need to have a minimum of a C license if possible. And a license is not 100% critical, guys. We're not generally doing licensed work, but it is nice to know that they have that license. A, it keeps them accountable. You can file complaints against the license. They don't do good work. And B, and probably more importantly, it's a sign that they took the time to be a professional in the industry and that they really want to do this as a full-time gig, right? Right out of the gate, we have this guy, Jason Butler. You can see I've already reached out to him because it's pending, but he's a real estate investor and general contractor. Why does that excite me? Well, if he's already an investor, he gets it. Right? And that's critical. You want somebody who gets it. We're not looking for an over-the-top, most beautiful remodel you've ever seen. We're looking at the property to a point where we can sell it at a profit. Remember that our competition is not brand new homes. Our competition is Joe Schmo reselling homes, and they're looking for, we want it to be cosmetically prettier, a nicer property than it was without making it perfect. There's a lot of GCs who got into this business to build beautiful Taj Mahal-esque homes, and I'm not knocking that at all. I'm a big fan of architecture, and I love quality work. When you walk into a custom, $1 million mansion, I love it too, but it's not the contractor we're looking for what we're doing. What we are looking for is that investor mindset. What is the bare minimum we can do to this property to get it to a sellable condition, right? If you over improve it, you are leaving money on the table and you will not get that money back. If you under improve it, it won't sell. It'll sit on the market for a long time and you'll lose the money in the interest that you're going to pay out on that. So you're looking for that happy medium. When I see a guy who's got an investor background, that excites me. So I want to reach out to him and see what kind of availability he has. Then you want to set an appointment with them to find out what their experience is, what their availability is, but perhaps most importantly, if you can work with them for the long term. All of this is based on a relationship. Keep that in mind. We are looking to build a long-term relationship with the general contractor, because once you have somebody who's got 22 years of experience, like this guy, Brian does, right? He got this much experience and you've got him in your rotation where he's working for the 10 to 15% markup, and you've got him consistently doing that work. So he's always busy. He may expand and take on larger deals with a different crew, but he'll have a dedicated crew that he's managing on your behalf. And that's where the real hard part of this is really dialed in. Okay. So a lot of my clients, full disclosure, guys, when I first started this, I wanted to be everything to everybody. Have you heard that? Like when you go into a business, and I had this utopian view of how I was going to find deals, analyze them, fund them. I was going to fix them for the clients. I'm going to sell them for the clients. The clients weren't going to be involved at all. This turned out to be a massive mistake. When all the moving parts started coming in and I realized I couldn't possibly manage all these projects on my own, I realized I had to bring in help pretty fast. And unfortunately, it damaged some relationships with some of my early on clients. I've learned from that mistake. I'm definitely doing it differently now. But the biggest change that I made was creating the right expectation in the eyes of the clientele that my role here is to direct and connect. Meaning I'm going to get you the project management resources that you have. We have GCs that we've worked with, but ultimately managing the flip is going to be on the client. That's the real profit in this. And the work part of this is finding deals is difficult, analyzing is difficult, funding is all difficult, but the most moving parts is getting those properties flipped. When we were flipping 40 plus houses a year, my wife, God bless her, was my project manager, right? And so she was dealing day to day with the construction, and she's very good at it, but she managed a lot of it intuitively in her head, right? We didn't have software, we didn't have systems in place. So when things really ramped up, we were doing 6 or 7 at a time, it was very easy for her to fall apart a little bit and not be able to keep track of it. From there, we put in software. We started working with Builder Trend, and that simplified the process a little bit because now we had a project management software to help guide our path. And from there, we added a team of people to help us out. We brought in project managers and operation manager, et cetera. We had this massive team coming into 22 when we were managing 7 or 8 properties. And for a time, things were going very well. When you're churning out 4 properties a month, the money is incredible. But it was still a ton of work and the lifestyle wasn't exactly what we wanted. So what I'm trying to teach people in my coaching program is how to manage your growth effectively, right? You want to start obviously by doing one deal at a time. That's critical. You don't want to go to multiple projects until you've really mastered one deal and you got that kind of figured out. Once you build on that, if you've got a contract project manager, you get very scalable. You can now send the project manager as many projects as they can handle. My PMs are saying we can get to about 6 to 8 deals before the payload's going to get to us. But keep in mind, that's all they have to do, right? They have to work on just their projects. They don't have any other job they're working on. So it's easy to get to 7 or 8 projects at the same time. If you're doing this and you have a life and a family and a job outside of your real estate investing career, project management is in and of itself a full-time job with one project. It take a lot of time, but when you start getting to multiple projects, it really takes a life of its own and becomes very difficult, right? So all of this is to say that the system, the foreclosure profit system, is designed to help you go from an investor who desires to take on their first flip to an investor that's consistently doing flips, as many as you want to do, with a target of $25,000 per. We're not looking to hit these massive returns in the early stages because those tend to be more complicated projects, and those complicated projects take more time and add more stress to your life. Guys, money is great, but if it causes a bunch of stress in your life, it's not useful, right? You want to have that balance between making a bunch of money and managing your stress accordingly. And I'm not going to kid you, flipping a property is not without its stressors. So we want to help you to get through that process by giving you the right project manager, connecting you with the right GCs, but ultimately you've got to manage the manager, right? If you choose to go directly to the GC because maybe you've already got a good GC relationship, then wonderful. That's a great ability for you to just work independently with that. Saves you a little bit of money, but you need to have that GC relationship. If you don't have a GC relationship, let me tell you, GCs speak a whole nother language, okay? And that language tends to cost you money. I am not trying to tell you that they're dishonest, but some of them are. What I'm trying to tell you is that a lot of them do not know how to improve like an investor. If they're not investors a lot of times, right? They're contractors. Their job is to sell you more services. That's how they feed their family. So we see that a lot where we get oversold based on, not getting the right scope of work dialed in. When you buy a property in my system, you'll have a scope of work. You'll have a materials list. You'll have a labor takeoff list. You'll have all the things. If you go and spend more on the project than the budget, You got to remember, you're not Congress, okay? That chips into your profit. So you got to be a good negotiator and get these things down to the budget that you were assigned for the project, which we try to base on reality and data in the same vein, right? We have software, construction estimation software, that tells us what stuff is supposed to cost, how many hours it's supposed to take, what that trade is costing per hour in the current market. So we're not theorizing as to what stuff should cost. We know what stuff should cost, but it's now on you to make sure that you're paying that and keeping within your budget, because if you go way past the budget, it's going to chip into your profitability. There's always unforeseen circumstances. I mean, in every deal. So we leave a contingency of about 10% of the project cost in every project to ensure that we've got some room to handle the unforeseen circumstances that occur in every project. But also, you have to keep in mind that some of the unforeseen circumstances are just negotiation on the part of the contractor. You don't want to get caught up in that, right? You really want to make sure that you are having a solid discussion based on a scope of work that is defined before you're talking to the GC, so you can't get oversold on it. And a project manager goes a long way in helping you to stay out of hot water with that. Okay, so we got several people still watching today. I'm going to wrap up with that, but locate your GCs, maybe even before you sign up for coaching. If you know somebody who's in there, you're talking to them about, hey, I need to be closer to this 10 to 15% margin over cost. Can you do projects at that? You want to know about that experience, what licensing they have. You want to make sure you're dealing with professionals. The more professional the contractor crews you have, the easier your flip is going to go, the more money you're going to make. But with a shortage in contracting, you might have to do some prospecting. The good news is we've got some proven GCs on our team already, so you don't have to find somebody directly for yourself. But, it helps if you have somebody else in case our crews are busy, or again, you're trying to build a relationship, because it's ultimately your business and your company that I, as your foreclosure deals coach, are helping you to grow and build, so you can ultimately get to a consistent flipping system that's doing at least 4 deals a year at an average profit of $25,000. It will completely change the path of your life. You'll have money to invest in other things. You'll be able to pay off your house faster, travel more, all the things that come from a successful side business. That's what we can do with a foreclosure deals coach system. I would love to talk to you more if you're looking to join up and learn more about that. With that, that is our show for today. I thank you guys so much for tuning in each and every single week to the show. I would love to chat with you about getting started in the coaching program. If you're interested in doing real estate investing, rates are heading downward, so it's a good time to get in. We know demand's going to pop up based on that. There are also a lot more foreclosures hitting the market right now. Foreclosure filings are higher, so we're finding a lot more opportunities for deals. We definitely have more deals. We have clients available to buy deals right now, so take advantage of that fact. Hop in right now. Let's get you into a deal and start making you some money in foreclosure investing. The opportunity is here and now, and I believe I'm the right coach to help anybody go from the desire to do this to a profitable foreclosure flipping business. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. This is Donny Coram, your foreclosure deals coach, thanking you and reminding you now and always, don't buy a house, buy a deal.